What happens when a man everyone mistakes for a servant finally answers back in the only language they respect? At my son's party, his fiancée laughed and called me a waiter in front of everyone. By the next morning, the balance in that family had already shifted, and they just hadn't realized it yet. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. The restaurant was one of those places where the lighting costs more than the food. Soft amber glow, white tablecloths, servers who moved like they were apologizing for existing. Evan had picked it because Mila loved being seen there. She'd posted 3 stories before the appetizers arrived, each one carefully angled to catch the chandelier's crystal refraction in the background. I sat at the far end of the table, next to Iris. My ex-wife had the decency to look uncomfortable, but she wasn't going to say anything. That wasn't her style anymore. We'd been divorced for 6 years, civil for 5, and politely distant ever since. She'd moved on, remarried briefly, then settled into the kind of independence that came from learning hard lessons about compromise. Mila sat across from Evan, her phone angled just right to catch the moment. She wore something white and expensive, her hair pulled back in a way that probably had a French name. Everything about her had a name, a brand, a price tag she'd mention if you asked. Her Instagram bio said she was a lifestyle curator, which as far as I could tell meant she took pictures of things other people paid for. "This lighting is perfect," she said, not to anyone in particular. "I need to remember this place for the engagement photos. The warmth of the ambient glow really complements my skin tone." Evan smiled. He always smiled when she talked about the wedding. It was easier than having opinions, safer than disagreeing. He'd learned early in their relationship that Mila didn't respond well to contradiction. I'd been quiet most of the night. That was my role. Show up, stay pleasant, don't interrupt the performance. I'd paid for half the dinner without being asked, signed the card Iris handed me, and listened to Mila explain why Destin Y with a capital Y was the only acceptable wedding planner in the entire state because she understood the energetic flow of ceremonial spaces. "Colby, you're so quiet tonight," Lena said from the middle of the table. She worked in HR at the plant, knew me well enough to recognize when I was just observing. Her husband sat beside her, a software engineer who looked perpetually confused by social gatherings. "Everything okay?" "Just enjoying the evening," I said. Mila glanced up from her phone, her eyes skating over me like I was part of the furniture. "He's always quiet. It's like having a ghost at the table. Honestly, sometimes I forget he's even there." A few people laughed. Polite, uncertain laughter. The kind that fills space when no one knows if a joke landed or if someone just said something cruel. "More wine?" A server appeared at my elbow, bottle tilted expectantly. "Please," I said. Mila's eyes flicked toward me, then back to her screen where she was editing her latest story. She added a filter, adjusted the saturation, typed out a caption about celebrating love and family. "You know, Colby, you'd make a great waiter. You've got that whole silent, hovering thing down, like you're always waiting for someone to need something." The table went quiet. Not the kind of quiet where people are thinking. The kind where they're deciding whether to react, whether to laugh, whether to pretend they didn't hear what they just heard. Evan's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Iris's hand tightened around her glass, her knuckles going white. Victor, the legal counsel from the plant, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Lena's husband coughed into his napkin. Mila smiled, the kind of smile that begged for agreement, for validation, for someone to tell her she was funny and clever. "I'm kidding, obviously." "Obviously," I said. She tilted her head, waiting for me to laugh it off, to play along, to shrink back into the role she'd written for me. The invisible father-in-law who showed up when needed and disappeared when convenient. I didn't. "Although," I continued, voice even, measured, calm, "if I were a waiter, I'd probably notice when someone leaves their dishes piled in the sink for a week, or when their laundry sits in the machine so long it starts to smell, or when the trash is so full that garbage sits balanced on top because no one wants to take it out." The smile fell off her face like ice sliding off a roof. Evan's eyes widened. "Dad, I'm just saying," I said, setting my glass down carefully on the white tablecloth. "If we're talking about who notices what, if we're talking about observation skills, if we're discussing who pays attention to the details." Mila's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Her cheeks flushed, not with embarrassment, but with anger. The kind of anger that comes from being seen when you're used to being the one who looks, when you're used to controlling the narrative. The laughter that had filled the space a moment ago was gone. Now there was just silence, thick and uncomfortable, the kind that made people check their phones or suddenly need the restroom. Someone scraped their fork against their plate. A glass clinked. Somewhere in the background, soft jazz played from hidden speakers. Iris stared at me like she just remembered who I used to be. Before the divorce. Before the quiet years. Before I learned to stay in my lane. Evan looked down at his plate, his face red. Mila's hand shook slightly as she reached for her wine. She took a long drink, set the glass down too hard, and looked at Evan like he was supposed to do something. He didn't. I picked up my fork and went back to my meal. The salmon was overcooked, but I ate it anyway. No one spoke for the rest of dinner. When dessert came, Mila excused herself to the restroom and didn't come back for 15 minutes. When she returned, her eyes were red and her makeup was freshly touched up. She didn't look at me, didn't look at anyone, really. Just sat down, ordered an espresso, and scrolled through her phone with the kind of intensity that suggested she was deleting something. The party ended quietly. People said their goodbyes, thanked Evan for inviting them, complimented Mila on her dress. She smiled and thanked them, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. As we filed out toward the parking lot, I heard someone whisper behind me. A woman's voice, soft but clear. "He took it well." I didn't turn around. Didn't need to. I knew exactly what she meant. They thought I'd absorbed the insult, taken the hit, stayed quiet. They had no idea what had just started. It didn't start with the waiter comment. It started 2 years ago, the first time Evan brought Mila to my house. She walked in like she was touring a museum exhibit, looked at the furniture, the walls, the kitchen, all with this expression that said she was cataloging everything she'd change if given the opportunity. She didn't say it out loud, not then, but I could see it in the way her eyes moved. Assessing, judging, filing mental notes for future reference. "This is cozy," she'd said, which is what people say when they mean small. She ran her finger along the back of my couch, a piece I'd bought 15 years ago that still worked perfectly fine. "Vintage," she added, which is what people say when they mean old. Evan had been nervous, eager to impress her, desperate for her approval. He'd cleaned his apartment twice before she came over the first time, bought new sheets from some expensive store she'd mentioned, hid anything that looked too bachelor. His place had looked like a showroom by the time she arrived, sterile and staged. I thought it would pass. Young love, new relationship energy, all the things that smooth out once people get comfortable with each other's imperfections. But Mila didn't get comfortable. She got comfortable making decisions. Within 6 months, she'd redecorated Evan's place. New couch because the old one didn't fit her aesthetic. New coffee table because the previous one had the wrong energy. New curtains because natural light needed to be filtered properly. New dishes because mismatched plates were chaotic. New everything, really. Each purchase documented and posted online with lengthy captions about intentional living and curated spaces. Evan paid for most of it. When he couldn't, I did. Not because he asked. He never directly asked. But Mila would mention it in passing, casually, like it wasn't a request. Evan really wants to get that credenza, but money's tight this month. He works so hard, you know? It would mean so much to him. And Evan would look at me with that expression he'd had since he was 12, the one that said he didn't want to disappoint anyone, the one that said he needed help but didn't know how to ask for it, so I'd pay. I'd transfer money to his account, or hand him my card, or drive them to the furniture store and watch as Mila selected pieces that cost more than some people's monthly rent. She never said thank you, never acknowledged that it wasn't Evan's money making her vision possible. She'd just smile and take another photo. I fixed their toilet when it wouldn't stop running. Spent 2 hours on my knees in their bathroom, replacing the flapper valve while Mila complained from the living room that the sound was disrupting her meditation. I helped move furniture when she decided the energy in the living room was off, that the couch needed to face east instead of west for optimal spiritual alignment. I brought over groceries when they were too busy to shop, unloaded bags while Mila explained why Mercury retrograde was affecting their relationship and why she couldn't possibly make decisions during this planetary phase. I listened to her talk about feng shui and chakras and manifestation, nodded when she said the apartment needed better spiritual cleansing, stayed quiet when she rearranged Evan's bookshelf because the spines were creating visual chaos. And every time, I was background noise. Not invisible exactly, just irrelevant, like furniture that served a purpose but didn't deserve acknowledgement. The disrespect was small at first, little comments about my clothes. "Colby, you really should update your wardrobe. People judge based on appearance, you know. First impressions matter." Or about my car. "Is that the same truck you've had for years? Don't you want something newer? Something that reflects success?" Or about the way I spent my weekends. "Don't you get bored just staying home? You should travel more. Experience things. Live intentionally." Evan never corrected her. He'd laugh it off, change the subject, act like it was just Mila being Mila, just her way of trying to help, just her caring about people enough to offer unsolicited advice. Iris noticed. She mentioned it once, carefully, after a family dinner where Mila spent 20 minutes explaining why my taste in furniture was dated and how I could improve my living space with just a few key investments in modern design. "She's young," Iris had said as we stood in my driveway afterward. "She doesn't know better. She hasn't learned that not everyone wants to be fixed." "She's 27, I replied. "That's old enough to know basic respect. Give her time. She'll mature." But I didn't push it, didn't make it a thing. Evan was happy, or at least he seemed happy, and that felt like enough. He smiled more, went out more, had someone to share his life with. That had to count for something, until it didn't. The night of the party, after the waiter comment, after the silence that followed, people started to leave. Mila was one of the first, her face still tight with anger, her jaw clenched. She didn't say goodbye, just grabbed her purse and walked out, heels clicking sharply on the tile floor like punctuation marks. Evan followed her, glancing back at me once with an expression I couldn't read. Confusion, maybe, or disappointment, or both. Lena lingered near the door, her coat over one arm. Her husband had already gone to get the car. "That was uncomfortable," she said quietly. "It was honest," I replied. She studied me for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded slowly, like she'd just made a decision about something. "See you Monday?" Victor was the last to leave. He stopped next to my chair, hands in his pockets, his tie slightly loosened. "Interesting evening," he said. Interesting choice of word. He smiled slightly. "I'll be in the office Tuesday if you want to talk." "About what?" "Anything that needs talking about, off the record or on it. Your choice." He left before I could respond. Iris stayed behind, helping me stack plates even though the restaurant staff was supposed to handle it. Old habits. We'd spent enough years married that some routines never quite disappeared. "You didn't have to say that," she said, arranging forks into neat parallel lines. "Yes, I did. Evan's going to be upset." "Evan's been upset before? He'll survive." She sighed, setting a glass down carefully on the growing stack. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet." That wasn't entirely true. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I just hadn't decided how far I was willing to go. 3 days later, I went to Evan's apartment. He'd texted me twice since the party. Short messages that appeared on my phone screen like small accusations. "Can we talk?" And "Mila's really hurt." I didn't respond, not because I was angry, but because I didn't have anything to say yet. Words without clarity are just noise, and I'd spent enough years learning when to stay quiet. I knocked once and waited. Evan opened the door looking tired. His hair was uncombed, his shirt wrinkled, and probably slept in. He had that look people get when they've been arguing for hours, that exhausted emptiness in the eyes. He stepped aside without saying anything, and I walked in. The apartment smelled stale. Not dirty, exactly, but lived in without being maintained. The kind of smell that comes from dishes left too long, laundry forgotten, windows that haven't been opened in weeks. It was the smell of people too busy performing life to actually live it. Mila wasn't there. Evan said she was at a yoga class, but I suspected she just didn't want to see me. Probably at a coffee shop somewhere, posting about boundaries and toxic people and how some relationships require distance for growth. "Dad, about the other night?" "Where's the sink?" I asked. He blinked. "What?" "The kitchen sink. Where is it?" He pointed toward the kitchen, confused, like I'd asked him a riddle instead of a simple question. I walked over. The sink was full. Plates, bowls, glasses, all stacked haphazardly, some with food still stuck to them in dried, crusty layers. Coffee rings stained the white ceramic. The faucet dripped slowly, a steady rhythm that had probably been going for days, wasting water one drop at a time. I opened the cabinet under the sink. The trash was overflowing, the bag stretched tight and threatening to split, a few pieces of garbage balanced precariously on top like some kind of domestic Jenga game. The smell hit me immediately, sour and organic and neglected. "Dad, I know it's messy, but where's the laundry?" "What?" I walked past him toward the hallway. The washer and dryer were in a closet near the bathroom, tucked behind a door that was slightly ajar. I opened it fully. The washing machine lid was up. Inside, clothes sat in a damp pile, wrinkled and compressed, sour-smelling. I touched one. Still wet. They'd been sitting there for at least 3 days, maybe 4, long enough to develop that distinctive mildew smell that never quite washes out. Evan stood behind me, silent. I closed the lid and turned to face him. "She called me a waiter," I said, in front of everyone. Made a joke about how I'm silent and hovering, about how I'd be good at serving people, at waiting on others. "She didn't mean it like that." "Yes, she did." He looked down at his shoes. She was just trying to be funny. You know how she is. She jokes around. And you let her." His jaw tightened. I didn't know she was going to say that. "But you didn't stop her after. Didn't pull her aside. Didn't tell her it was inappropriate. You just sat there and let the moment pass." Silence. I gestured toward the kitchen, the laundry, the apartment that looked nothing like the curated perfection Mila posted online every single day. She talks about balance and energy and how everything has to be just right. She spends hours arranging furniture, taking pictures, explaining why the universe is out of alignment when things aren't perfect. But she can't wash a dish, can't run a load of laundry, can't take out the trash, can't maintain the basic functions of adult living. Dad. And you let her talk to me like I'm the help, like I'm staff, like I'm someone who exists to serve her needs and then disappear when she's done with me. Evan's face flushed. You embarrassed her. I told the truth. In front of everyone. In front of people we know. People she has to see again. She embarrassed me first. In front of people I work with. People I've known for years. People whose respect I've earned. That's not the same thing. No, I agreed. It's not. Because I've been quiet for 2 years. I've paid for things, fixed things, showed up when you needed me, stayed silent when she made her little comments, let her treat me like I'm invisible, and she's never once said thank you. She's just assumed that's what I'm for. That's my role in this arrangement. Evan's hands clenched into fists, then relaxed. He looked like he wanted to argue, but didn't have the words. His mouth opened and closed several times. I need you to leave, he said finally. I nodded. I'll go. I walked to the door, then stopped with my hand on the knob. One more thing. He looked at me, eyes red and tired. Next time she wants to call me a waiter, tell her waiters get paid, and they don't work for free for 2 years. I left before he could respond. The hallway was quiet. I took the stairs instead of the elevator, needing the physical movement, the rhythm of steps under my feet. By the time I reached my truck, I'd made my decision. Not about what to do. That part was already clear. About how far to take it. Monday morning, I was in my office at the plant by 6:30. The building was quiet at that hour, just the hum of machines in the distance, the occasional footstep echoing down the hall, the soft whir of ventilation systems keeping the air circulating. I liked it that way. Gave me time to think without interruption, to plan without distraction. My office overlooked the main factory floor. Through the window, I could see the early shift starting up, people moving with practiced efficiency through routines they'd performed thousands of times. This was my domain, the place where I had authority, respect, control, the place where people understood exactly what I was worth. I pulled up the employee handbook on my computer. Section 12, subsection 4, Conduct and Liability. I'd written parts of it myself 3 years ago when we updated the security protocols after an incident involving unauthorized visitors on industrial property. There was a knock at the door. Come in. Victor walked in, coffee in hand, looking like he'd already been awake for hours. He sat down across from me without waiting for an invitation, crossed one leg over the other, and took a slow sip from his mug. You look like you're planning something, he said. Just reading. Uh-huh. He set his coffee down on the edge of my desk, careful to avoid the papers spread there. You want to tell me what happened the other night, or should I guess? I closed the laptop. My son's fiancée decided I'd make a good punchline. And you punched back. I stated facts. Victor smiled faintly. Facts have a way of landing hard when they're delivered at the right moment, especially in front of an audience. They do. He leaned back in his chair, studying me with the kind of attention lawyers give when they're assessing liability. You thinking about doing something official? Depends. On what? On whether she keeps pushing. And if she does? I didn't answer right away. Victor was good at reading silences. He'd been in legal for 20 years, had sat through enough depositions and negotiations to know when to wait and when to press. I've been head of security here for 12 years, I said finally. I know every policy, every protocol, every line that separates acceptable behavior from actionable conduct. And I know how to document things properly, how to build a case that holds up under scrutiny. You're talking about building a file. I'm talking about setting boundaries. Clear, documented, enforceable boundaries. Victor picked up his coffee, took a slow sip. Boundaries are good. Healthy even. Just make sure you're not using a sledgehammer when a fence will do. I'm not trying to destroy anything. I know, but sometimes the line between protecting yourself and going too far gets blurry, especially when family's involved. Not for me. I've always known where the lines are. He stood, straightened his jacket. If you need anything official, you know where to find me. My door's always open. I do. After he left, I opened the laptop again. I pulled up the access logs for the plant, reviewed the visitor policies, the liability clauses, the insurance requirements, made notes about the procedures for unauthorized presence on industrial property, about the documentation required for family member access, about the limits of personal versus professional boundaries. Then I opened a new document and started writing. Not a complaint, not an accusation, just a record, dates, times, incidents, the dinner at the restaurant, the comment about waiters, the laughter from the table, Evan's silence when his fiancée disrespected his father, the lack of any apology or acknowledgement afterward. I wrote for an hour, clinical and precise, the way I'd been trained to document security incidents. No emotion, no interpretation, just observable facts arranged in chronological order. When I finished, I saved it in 3 places: local drive, cloud backup, encrypted folder. Then I opened my email and sent a calendar invite to Lena in HR. Subject, policy review, family conduct standards. She accepted within 5 minutes. Her response was brief. Conference room B, Thursday 2 p.m. work for you? I confirmed. The rest of Monday passed in routine. Meetings about upgraded security systems, review of camera placements, discussion about new badge protocols. Work that required attention, but not much thought. The kind of tasks I could handle while part of my mind stayed focused on other things. At lunch, I sat in my office and ate the sandwich I'd brought from home. Through the window, I watched the factory floor. People working, building, creating things that mattered. My phone buzzed. A text from Evan. We need to talk, please. I set the phone face down on my desk and finished my sandwich. The text from Evan came again 2 days later. Mila wants to apologize. I stared at the screen for a long time before responding. Watched the cursor blink, considered my options. Thought about what an apology from Mila would actually look like and whether it would mean anything real. Does she? Not a question, a statement. Yes. Can we meet? No. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. The digital equivalent of stammering. Dad, please. She feels bad. She should. You're being unreasonable. I set the phone down and went back to work. An hour later, Mila posted on social media a long caption about growth, forgiveness, and how some people hold grudges instead of choosing peace. The picture was of her and Evan smiling, his arm around her shoulders, both of them looking like they'd just stepped out of a lifestyle magazine. The caption read, "Learning that you can't control other people's reactions, only your own intentions." Sometimes the hardest part of growth is accepting that not everyone will understand your journey. Grateful for the people who choose love over resentment, who see past mistakes to the heart beneath. We're all just doing our best. The comments were full of supportive messages within minutes. You're so mature. Some people just don't get it. Stay strong, Queen. Your energy is beautiful. I screenshotted it, added it to the file I'd started. That evening, I sat in my home office and reviewed everything I'd compiled over the past 2 years. I hadn't realized I was keeping records until I started looking, but it was all there. Saved text messages, email confirmations, bank statements showing transfers to Evan's account with notes about what the money was for, receipts for furniture deliveries to his address, repair invoices for work I'd done at their apartment, grocery receipts from the times I'd brought food because they were too busy to shop, even photos taken casually over the months that showed the progression of Mila's redecorating project, and mixed throughout the requests, always phrased carefully, never quite direct. Evan mentioned you might be able to help with the new bookshelf. If you're not busy this weekend, the bathroom sink is acting up again. We're a little short this month, but there's this amazing coffee table we found. Never a direct ask, always an implication, always leaving room for me to offer, to volunteer, to step into the role they'd created for me. I had photos too. The sink, the laundry, the trash. I'd taken them the day I visited Evan's apartment, not because I planned to use them, but because some instinct told me I might need documentation. Evidence. Proof that the reality didn't match the image. I printed everything, organized it into sections with labeled dividers, clipped it neatly into a folder with a table of contents. Then I made 3 copies. One for me, one for Victor, one for Lena. The meeting with Lena was scheduled for Thursday. I didn't tell Evan, didn't tell Mila, didn't tell anyone except the people who needed to know. On Wednesday night, Evan called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again 20 minutes later. I answered. We need to talk, he said. His voice was strained, tired. Then talk. Not on the phone, in person. This is important. I'm busy. Dad, please. This is serious. There was something in his voice. Not anger, not frustration. Something closer to fear, to desperation. What's wrong? I asked. Mila's planning something. For the wedding. She wants to ask you to help pay for the venue. It's this place she found. Really beautiful, but it's expensive. She thinks if she explains it right, shows you pictures, you'll understand why it's worth it. And I think you should say yes. I laughed. Not a mean laugh. Not cruel, just tired. Why would I do that? Because she's trying. Because she wants to make things right. Because it would mean a lot to her. To both of us. It would mean a lot to her if I paid for something she wants. That's not the same as making things right. Dad. Evan, listen to me. I've been paying for things she wants for 2 years. I've fixed, supported, and shown up every time you asked. Every single time. And the one time I didn't stay quiet when she disrespected me, you took her side. You told me to leave your apartment. I didn't take her side. You told me to leave, after she called me a waiter, after she made me a joke. You chose her comfort over my dignity. Silence on the other end. I could hear him breathing, could almost see him struggling to find the right words. I'm not saying no, I continued. I'm saying I'll handle it properly, through appropriate channels. What does that mean? It means I'll handle it. Dad, you're scaring me. What are you planning? Nothing that isn't justified, nothing that isn't documented, nothing that crosses any lines. That doesn't answer my question. It's the only answer you're getting right now. I hung up before he could respond. The phone rang again immediately. I turned it off. Thursday morning, I walked into the HR conference room at exactly 2 p.m. Lena was already there, along with Victor. They both stood when I entered, professional and formal. Afternoon, Colby, Lena said. Thanks for taking the time. I set the folder on the table between us. Thanks for meeting. She glanced at Victor, then back at me. What's this about? Boundaries, I said. And making sure they're clear, documented, and enforceable moving forward. I opened the folder and slid the first section across the table. Lena picked it up, started reading. Her expression stayed neutral, but I saw her eyes widen slightly as she processed the dates, the details, the pattern. Victor leaned over to look, his lawyer face firmly in place. This is comprehensive, Lena said after a moment. I'm thorough. I can see that. She flipped through more pages. And you're bringing this to HR because I need it on record. I need clear documentation that I'm establishing boundaries with family members regarding financial support, personal assistance, and access to professional spaces. I need it understood that future interactions will be formal, documented, and conditional. Conditional on what? Victor asked. On mutual respect, on explicit requests rather than implied expectations, on acknowledgement of value given rather than assumption of service owed. Lena set the papers down carefully. Has there been any direct threat? Any harassment? No, just a pattern of disrespect that culminated in a public incident. I want to prevent escalation by making expectations clear now. And you're doing this formally because informal conversations haven't worked? I'm doing this formally because it's the appropriate way to establish boundaries that need to be enforceable. She nodded slowly. I'll need to file this as a personal conduct documentation. It'll be in your employee record, but it won't affect your standing or security clearance. Understood. And if there are future incidents, then we'll have established precedent for appropriate response. Victor smiled slightly. You've thought this through. I have. Lena gathered the papers, tapped them into a neat stack. I'll process this by end of week. You'll get a confirmation email with the file number. Thank you. I stood to leave. Colby, Victor said. Off the record? I paused. Whatever you're planning, make sure it's worth it. Family dynamics are complicated. Sometimes winning the battle means losing the war. Sometimes, I said, the war was already lost. This is just recognizing it? I left before either of them could respond. Friday passed quietly. I worked, ate lunch at my desk, answered emails, reviewed security footage from the overnight shift. Normal routine, nothing remarkable. Evan didn't call, didn't text. The silence felt intentional. Saturday morning, I went to the hardware store. Bought supplies for a project I'd been putting off, replacing the weather stripping on my front door. Spent the afternoon installing it, enjoying the precise physical work, the measurable progress. My phone buzzed once. A message from Mila's number. Evan says you're being stubborn. We just want to talk. Why are you making this so difficult? I deleted it without responding. An hour later, another message. Fine. If you want to ruin our relationship, that's on you. But don't expect Evan to choose you over me. Delete. Sunday, I went for a drive. No destination, just movement. Out past the city limits, into the countryside where fields stretched empty and quiet. I stopped at a diner, ate breakfast, read the paper. The waitress was friendly, efficient, professional. I left a generous tip. On the drive back, my phone rang. Iris, I answered. Have you talked to Evan? She asked without preamble. Not recently. He called me last night. He's confused, upset, says you're planning something but won't tell him what. I'm not planning anything. I'm implementing boundaries. That's what he said you'd say. She sighed. Colby, I know Mila was out of line. I was there. I saw it. But is this really worth damaging your relationship with Evan? I'm not damaging anything. I'm stopping something that was already damaged from getting worse. By going through HR, by making it official, that seems extreme. Does it? Or does it seem like the logical response to 2 years of being treated like hired help? Silence on the other end. I'm not trying to hurt anyone, I continued. I'm just making it clear that my time, money, and assistance aren't automatic. They're conditional, and the condition is basic respect. And if Evan doesn't understand that, then he'll learn, one way or another. She was quiet for a long moment. You sound different. I feel different. Is that good or bad? It's necessary. After we hung up, I drove the rest of the way home in silence. No radio, no podcast, just the sound of tires on asphalt and my own thoughts. Monday morning, the confirmation email from HR was waiting in my inbox, file number, date stamp, official record that boundaries had been established and documented. I forwarded it to Victor with a brief note. For your records. His response came within minutes. Received. Standing by if needed. The week progressed in careful routine. Work. Home. Work. Home. I avoided unnecessary conversations, kept interactions professional and brief. Several people at the plant asked if I was okay. I told them I was fine, just focused. Wednesday evening, Evan showed up at my house. I saw his car pull into the driveway from my living room window. Watched him sit there for a full minute before getting out. He walked to the door slowly, like he was approaching something dangerous. I opened it before he could knock. We need to talk, he said. Come in. He followed me to the kitchen. I poured 2 glasses of water, slid one across the counter to him. He didn't touch it. Mila's threatening to call off the wedding, he said. Okay. Okay? That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? That you'll stop this, whatever this is, that you'll apologize and things can go back to normal. Things were never normal, Evan. That's the point. He ran both hands through his hair, frustrated. She made one joke, one stupid joke, and you're destroying everything over it. It wasn't one joke. It was 2 years of small disrespects that built to one public humiliation, and I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped accepting it. By going to HR, by making it official, by treating your own family like a security threat. I didn't treat anyone like a threat. I documented that I'm setting boundaries. That's all. That's all? His voice rose. Dad, you made it a formal thing. You put it in your employee record. You involved lawyers and HR and made it into this official problem that can't just go away. Good. It shouldn't go away. It should be clear and documented and understood. He stared at me like I was a stranger. What happened to you? Nothing happened to me. I just remembered who I am, what I'm worth, what I deserve. And we don't deserve anything? Your own son doesn't deserve understanding, forgiveness? You deserve honesty. And honestly, you've let your fiancée treat me like I'm invisible for 2 years. You've accepted her disrespect, allowed her assumptions, enabled her behavior. You've chosen her comfort over my dignity every single time. Because I love her. Love doesn't require disrespect of others. You can love her and still expect her to treat people with basic decency. She's young. She's learning. She's 27. That's old enough to know better. And if she's still learning, then maybe this is part of the lesson. Evan picked up the glass of water, set it down without drinking. She wants to meet, to apologize properly, face to face. No, why not? Because I don't trust that it's genuine. Because based on her social media posts, she thinks she's the victim here. And because even if she apologizes, it doesn't change the pattern. It doesn't undo 2 years of treatment. So what then? You just cut us off? Refuse to be involved? I'm not cutting you off. I'm establishing terms. If you need my help, you ask directly. You acknowledge what you're asking for. You say thank you. You treat me like someone who's choosing to help, not someone who's obligated to serve. That's not fair. It's completely fair. It's how functional relationships work. He stood abruptly, the stool scraping against the floor. I can't believe you're doing this. My own father, making me jump through hoops just to have a relationship. I'm not making you do anything. I'm just not accepting less than I deserve anymore. He walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the knob. Mila was right about you, he said quietly. You do hold grudges. No, I replied. I hold boundaries. There's a difference. He left without another word. I stood in my kitchen, listening to his car start, listening to him drive away. The house was quiet again. Empty, but not in a bad way. Just quiet. Thursday morning, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. Subject, wedding venue discussion. The message was from Mila. Colby, I know we've had our differences, but I'm hoping we can move past them for Evan's sake. The wedding is important to both of us, and we'd like your support. I've attached information about the venue we've chosen. It's a beautiful space that really aligns with our vision. We're hoping you might consider contributing to the deposit. Please let me know your thoughts. Attached were glossy photos of an estate property, rolling lawns, white columns, chandeliers in every room, the kind of place that charged by the hour and required insurance. I forwarded the email to Victor without comment. His response came back within an hour. Interesting approach. She's treating you like a potential investor. Very transactional. Do you want my advice? I replied, always. His next email was longer. Don't respond directly to her. Anything you say can and will be reinterpreted. If you decide to contribute financially to anything, do it through formal channels with clear documentation. Better yet, don't contribute at all until there's demonstrated change in behavior patterns. You've set boundaries. Now hold them. I deleted Mila's email and moved on with my day. Friday, Lena stopped by my office just before lunch. Got a minute? She asked. Sure. She closed the door behind her, sat down across from my desk. I wanted to follow up on the documentation we filed last week. Everything processed, okay? Yes, it's in the system. But I wanted to ask if there's been any escalation since then. Define escalation. Contact, pressure, anything that might require additional documentation. I considered telling her about Mila's email, decided it wasn't relevant yet. Nothing that crosses any lines. Good, that's good, she paused. Off the record, how are you doing with all this? Fine. Really? Really. This isn't emotional for me, it's practical. She studied me for a moment. You know, most people in your situation would be angry, hurt, acting out of emotion. I was married to a lawyer for 8 years, learned early that emotion clouds judgment. She smiled slightly. Iris taught you well. She did. After she left, I sat at my desk and looked out at the factory floor. People working, machines running, everything functioning according to plan. That's all I wanted. Function, clarity, appropriate boundaries maintained. The weekend passed uneventfully. I worked on projects around the house, read, slept well. My phone stayed quiet. Monday morning, Victor called me into his office. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. I sat. He pulled a file from his drawer, opened it. I received an interesting call this morning from someone claiming to be your son's fiancé's attorney. Mila doesn't have an attorney. That's what I thought, so I asked for credentials. Turns out it was her father's business lawyer. Not licensed for family law, not licensed in this state. Basically just someone she asked to make a scary phone call. What did they want? They suggested that your documentation of family boundaries could be construed as harassment, that you were creating a hostile environment for your son's relationship, that you should cease and desist all official filings related to personal family matters. And you said? I said that nothing filed was harassment, that establishing personal boundaries through proper HR channels is protected, that documentation of conduct standards is standard practice, and that if they wanted to pursue the matter further, they should retain actual legal counsel licensed in this state and familiar with employment law. How did they respond? They hung up. Victor closed the file. But it tells you something about their strategy. They're trying to intimidate you into backing down. Not going to work. I didn't think it would, but be prepared for more pressure. People who are used to getting their way don't respond well to boundaries. I've noticed. He leaned back in his chair. You're handling this well, better than most people would. I've had practice staying calm under pressure. Still, family situations are different, more personal. Only if you let them be. That afternoon, I received a text from Evan. Mila's lawyer called you? What the hell, Dad? I replied. Mila called someone pretending to be a lawyer. I didn't initiate anything. You're making this worse. I'm responding to escalation appropriately. By involving lawyers, by making this legal, by protecting myself through proper channels. From your own family? From behavior that crosses boundaries. Family doesn't exempt anyone from basic respect. He didn't respond. Tuesday morning, I arrived at work to find a small envelope on my desk. Hand-delivered, no stamp, just my name written in careful script. Inside was a card. Expensive cardstock, embossed edges. The front said, "We're sorry," in elegant calligraphy. I opened it. Colby, we want to apologize for any hurt we've caused. Our intention was never to make you feel disrespected. We value you and appreciate everything you do for us. We hope we can move forward together as family. Love, Mila, and Evan. Pre-printed message, both signatures at the bottom. I set it aside and checked my email. Nothing from Evan, nothing from Mila, just the card, delivered anonymously. No follow-up, no actual conversation. I took a photo of it, added it to the file, and put the original in my desk drawer. Victor stopped by around 10. Card? He asked, nodding at the drawer. How did you know? Because it's the next logical step in the playbook. Public apology without actual admission of wrongdoing. Shows effort without requiring change. You've seen this before. Many times. Usually in corporate disputes, someone does something inappropriate, gets called out, sends a generic apology to establish good faith, then continues the same behavior. So the card means nothing. The card means they're worried, but it doesn't mean they understand why you're doing this. Should I respond? Only if you want to, and only if you can do it without weakening your position. I thought about it for the rest of the day. That evening, I composed a brief email. Evan and Mila, I received your card. I appreciate the gesture. Moving forward, I'm happy to have a relationship with you both based on mutual respect and clear communication. If you need anything from me, please ask directly and specifically. I'll respond in kind. Best, Colby. I sent it before I could second-guess the wording. Evan's response came an hour later. That's it? That's all you have to say? I didn't reply. Wednesday afternoon, I was reviewing security camera footage when my desk phone rang. Internal line. Varen. Colby, it's reception. There's someone here to see you. Mila Winters, she doesn't have an appointment. I paused the footage. Tell her I'm not available. She says it's important, family matter. I understand. I'm still not available. If she wants to schedule a meeting, she can email me. Will do. I hung up and went back to the footage. 10 minutes later, my cell phone buzzed. Mila. I'm in your lobby. We need to talk. Please. I typed back, I'm working. If you'd like to schedule a conversation, send me an email with proposed times. This is ridiculous. I drove all the way here. I didn't ask you to. I'm trying to fix things. By showing up unannounced at my workplace, that's not fixing things. That's ignoring boundaries. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then, fine, I'll email you. She didn't. Thursday morning, I received an email from Evan's personal account. Dad, Mila went to see you. You refused to talk to her. Do you understand how humiliating that was for her? She was trying to apologize face to face to show you she's serious, and you treated her like a stranger, like she's not about to be your daughter-in-law. I replied, she showed up unannounced at my workplace without scheduling a meeting. That's not showing respect. That's assuming access. There's a difference. You're being impossible. I'm being consistent. Same thing. No, it's not. Friday, Victor called me into his office again. Sit, he said. I sat. I got another call, this time from Evan directly. I waited. He wanted to know if there was a way to remove the documentation from your file, to make this go away officially so everyone could move on. What did you tell him? I told him that documentation filed through proper channels stays filed, that it's not a complaint against him or Mila, that it's simply a record of personal boundaries you've established, and that removing it would require your consent, which I didn't imagine you'd give. You imagined correctly. He got upset, said you were holding this over his head, using your position here to control his personal life. That's not what's happening. I know, but that's how he sees it. Victor leaned forward. Colby, I'm going to be direct with you. This is escalating. They're not backing down. They're getting more desperate, and desperate people make bad decisions. What kind of decisions? I don't know yet, but I think you should be prepared for something public, something designed to make you look unreasonable. Like what? Social media, mutual friends, public appeals to your better nature. Anything that shifts the narrative from Mila was disrespectful to Colby is being cruel. I haven't been cruel. I know, but perception matters, and they're losing the private battle, so they'll try to win the public one. Let them try. He studied me. You're really not bothered by this, are you? Should I be? Most people would be. Most people would be stressed, angry, second-guessing themselves. I'm not most people. No, he agreed. You're not. That evening, I cooked dinner and ate it at my kitchen table. Chicken, rice, vegetables, simple, satisfying. I cleaned up afterward, washed the dishes, put everything away. My phone buzzed. A notification from social media. I didn't have accounts, but I'd set up alerts for certain names. Mila had posted. I opened the browser on my computer and navigated to her profile. The post was long, a photo of her and Evan, both looking sad and serious. The caption read, "Sometimes the hardest thing about planning a wedding is dealing with family dynamics. We've been trying to include everyone, to make everyone feel valued, but sometimes people hold on to hurt in ways that make it impossible to move forward. To anyone who's dealt with difficult family members during major life events, I see you, I understand. We're choosing to focus on love and our future together, even when others can't seem to let go of the past, sending light to anyone else navigating complicated relationships." The comments were immediate and supportive. Stay strong. You deserve better. Family can be so toxic. Don't let anyone dim your light. I screenshotted the post, added it to the file. Then I closed the browser and went to bed. Saturday morning, my phone started buzzing at 8 a.m., texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Is it true you're refusing to help with Evan's wedding? Mila says you won't even talk to her. Family is supposed to support each other. I blocked them all. More came. By noon, I'd blocked 15 numbers. Iris called. Are you seeing this? She asked. The texts? Yes. Not just texts, social media. Mila's post has been shared by her friends. People are commenting. It's getting attention. I don't care. Colby, people are saying things, calling you controlling, saying you're punishing Evan for being in love. People can say whatever they want. It doesn't change the facts. But it changes perception, and perception matters when it's your own son's wedding. Iris, I'm not engaging with this. I set boundaries. I documented them. I've been consistent. If people want to believe a one-sided story, that's their choice. You're really not going to defend yourself? Against what? Against people who don't have all the information making judgments based on social media posts? No, I'm not going to waste energy on that. She sighed. You sound just like you did during the divorce. Calm, certain, immovable. Is that a criticism? It's an observation. We hung up shortly after. The texts continued through the afternoon. I stopped reading them, just blocked and deleted. Sunday morning, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the window. Evan's car in the driveway, Mila in the passenger seat. I opened the door. Evan stood there, hands in his pockets. Can we come in? Is this a scheduled meeting? Dad, come on. I'm serious. Did you email me requesting a time to talk? No, but... Then no, you can't come in. This is my father's house. I used to live here. Used to, not anymore. Now you're a guest, and guests schedule visits. Mila got out of the car, walked up behind Evan. This is insane. You're really going to turn away your own son? I'm going to maintain the boundaries I've established. If you want to talk, schedule it properly. We're here now, she said, and I'm not available now. Her face flushed. You know what? Fine. We tried. We came here. We tried to make peace, and you're being impossible. Don't blame us when people know the truth about you. The truth, I said calmly, is that I asked for basic respect, and you refused to give it. Everything else is noise. Evan looked like he wanted to say something. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Come on, Mila said, grabbing his arm. We're done here. They got in the car and left. I closed the door and went back to my coffee. Monday morning, Victor was waiting at my office when I arrived. We need to talk, he said. Conference room? Yes. We walked down the hall together. He closed the door behind us. Over the weekend, I got calls from 3 different people, all claiming to be concerned about your mental state, all suggesting that you might be under stress and making poor decisions regarding family. Let me guess, friends of Mila's. 2 were. One was someone claiming to be Evan's college roommate. What did you tell them? That I'm not at liberty to discuss personal matters with unauthorized parties. That if they have concerns about an employee's well-being, they should file them through proper channels. That random phone calls to company legal don't constitute proper channels. Thank you. But Colby, this is getting messy. They're trying to build a narrative that you're unstable, that you're having some kind of breakdown. I'm the most stable I've been in years. I believe you, but they're creating doubt, planting seeds. If this continues, it could become a problem professionally. How? If enough people start questioning your judgment, your clearance could be reviewed. Your position could be questioned. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because perception creates liability. I sat back in my chair. So what do you recommend? 2 options. 1, you cave, you apologize, you help with the wedding, you go back to the old dynamic, make this go away by giving them what they want. Not going to happen. I didn't think so. Option 2, you document everything they're doing. Every text, every call, every social media post, every attempt at public pressure. You build a case that shows a pattern of harassment in response to reasonable boundaries. And then? If they push too far, you have grounds for a restraining order. Or at the very least, you have clear evidence that you're the one being harassed, not the other way around. That seems extreme. So does calling your workplace pretending to be a lawyer. So does showing up unannounced at your office. So does organizing a social media campaign to paint you as unstable. They escalated. You're just responding appropriately. I thought about it. Start documenting, I said finally. Everything, but I don't want to file anything yet. I want to see how far they're willing to go. Understood. That afternoon, I received an email from Mila. Since you won't talk to us in person, I'll put this in writing. Evan and I are getting married in 3 months. We'd like you to be there. We'd like you to contribute to the venue cost. We'd like you to be part of this important day. But if you continue to hold this grudge over one small comment, if you continue to treat us like we're enemies instead of family, then we'll move forward without you. The choice is yours. I forwarded it to Victor. His response: Perfect. Keep saving these. I replied to Mila's email. I'll consider attending the wedding if and when you demonstrate consistent, respectful behavior over time. Contributions to venue costs or other expenses will be discussed only after a pattern of mutual respect is established. I'm not holding a grudge. I'm holding a boundary. There's a difference. She wrote back within minutes. A pattern? How long is that supposed to take? What are we supposed to do? Perform for you for months just to earn your approval. You're supposed to treat me with basic respect. Not as a performance. As a default. That's how functional relationships work. You're impossible. I'm consistent. She stopped responding. Tuesday evening, Iris called again. Evan came by today, she said. He's really struggling with this. I know. He doesn't understand why you won't just let it go. Because letting it go means accepting that it's okay to treat me that way, and it's not. He thinks you're choosing pride over family. He's wrong. I'm choosing self-respect over dysfunction. Is there any room for compromise? Of course. They show genuine respect, acknowledge the pattern of behavior, demonstrate change over time, and we rebuild from there. That's not compromise, Colby. That's capitulation. You're asking them to admit they were wrong. They were wrong. But asking them to admit it publicly, to perform change for you, that's not compromise. I'm not asking for public admission. I'm asking for private acknowledgement and behavioral change. That's reasonable. She was quiet for a moment. You're not going to bend on this, are you? No. Then I hope you're prepared for the consequences. I am. We hung up. I sat in my living room, the house quiet around me. No texts, no calls, no unexpected visitors, just quiet. And for the first time in 2 years, it felt like peace. The meeting was scheduled for Monday morning at 9 a.m. I sent the calendar invite Friday afternoon. Subject: Family Boundary Discussion, Final Terms. Location: Industrial Boardroom. Required attendees: Evan Varon, Mila Winters. Optional: Victor Hale, Lena Brooks. Evan accepted immediately with a note. Finally, let's end this. Mila accepted without comment. Victor and Lena confirmed. I arrived at 8:45. The boardroom was empty, pristine. I'd reserved it through proper channels, submitted the forms, gotten facilities approval, everything official. I set 3 folders at my seat, opened my laptop, and pulled up the files I'd compiled over the past 3 weeks. Victor arrived at 8:50. Ready? Yes. You know this could go badly. It could, but it won't. Lena came in next with a legal pad and sat across from me, neutral and observant. At 9 exactly, Evan walked in. Alone. Where's Mila? I asked. In the car. She's afraid to come in. She thinks you're going to humiliate her. Tell her she has 5 minutes. After that, we proceed without her. He texted. We waited. At 9:04, Mila walked in. She looked smaller somehow. No makeup, hair pulled back, jeans and a plain sweater. None of her usual polished presentation. She sat next to Evan without looking at anyone. Thank you for coming, I said. She didn't respond. I opened the first folder. This meeting has one purpose. Final terms moving forward. No more ambiguity, no more assumptions, just documented expectations. Evan leaned forward. Dad, if this is about the wedding, it's about everything. The wedding is part of the pattern. I slid the first document across the table. Financial contributions. Total amount. Dates. Purposes. $37,000 over 24 months. None requested directly. None acknowledged. All assumed. Mila's head snapped up. 37,000? Yes. That can't be right. It's exact. Receipts are in the appendix. Evan read. His face drained. I slid over the second document. Behavioral incidents, comments, actions, patterns of disrespect, dated, witnesses where applicable, culminating in the public incident at the restaurant 3 weeks ago. Mila finally looked at me. You documented everything? Every little thing I said? Not everything. The pattern. The moments that mattered. This is crazy. This is thorough. I placed the third document in front of them. Terms moving forward, what I will do, what I won't do, what I expect, and what happens if boundaries are violated. Evan read first, jaw tightening. No financial support without a written request and written agreement. Correct. No family events without 2 weeks' notice. Correct. Communication only through email or scheduled meetings. For now. For how long? Until the pattern changes. Mila grabbed the paper and read fast. Her hands shook. This is punishment. You're punishing us for one comment. I'm protecting myself from a pattern. By cutting us off, by treating us like criminals, by treating you like adults who understand boundaries. She stood. I'm not signing this. You don't have to sign it. It goes into effect regardless. You're being informed. The courtesy? She snapped. This is controlling, manipulative. This is exactly what everyone said you'd do. Everyone doesn't have all the information. You're hiding behind procedure and turning family into paperwork. I'm turning it into what it is, I said. A boundary. A line you don't cross again. Evan touched her arm. Mila, sit down. No, she pointed at me. I apologized. I came here. And he's still holding this over us like we're horrible people. You called me a waiter, I said, quiet and flat, in front of people I respect. You made me a joke. Then you and Evan acted like I was the problem. You posted online. You called pretend lawyers. You showed up at my workplace. You organized your friends to text me. You did everything except acknowledge what you did. Tears formed in her eyes. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. You meant exactly what you said. You see me as someone who serves you, pays, fixes, smooths things over, and you got angry when I pointed out the image you sell doesn't match how you actually live. That's not fair. It's accurate. If you can't see that, we're done. Evan stood. Dad, can we just talk without witnesses and documents? No, informal didn't work. 2 years of informal led here. Now it's formal. Clear terms, clear consequences. And if we don't accept them? Then we don't have a relationship beyond minimal contact. Holidays, maybe. Major events. Nothing else. Mila wiped her face. You'd really do that? Cut off your own son? I'm not cutting anyone off. I'm refusing to accept less than I deserve. If that feels like being cut off, that tells you what you thought you were entitled to. She grabbed her purse. Evan, we're leaving. He didn't move. Evan. He looked at her, then at me, then at the documents. I need to think. Mila's voice went sharp. He's giving you an ultimatum. Choose him or choose me. That's not what this is, Evan said. I didn't raise my voice. I'm not asking anyone to choose. I'm asking if you want a relationship with me based on respect. That's the only version available. Mila stared at Evan one last time. I'm leaving. Are you coming? He stayed seated. She walked out. Her heels clicked down the hallway until the sound disappeared. Evan sat with his head in his hands. She's right about one thing. It's an ultimatum. It's a boundary, I said. You decide whether you can meet it. He looked up. Do you even want me in your life? Yes, but not as someone who stands by while I'm treated like hired help. I never meant... I know, but you allowed it. He stood slowly, picked up the documents, folded them carefully. I need time. Take it. He stopped at the door. People make mistakes. You're supposed to forgive. Forgiveness without change is permission, I said. He left. Victor and Lena stayed quiet while I closed my folders. They documented the outcome and left. My phone stayed silent all day. The next morning, Evan emailed, I accept your terms. Mila doesn't. We're postponing the wedding. I need time to figure things out. Please give me space until then. I replied, understood. I forwarded the email to Victor and Lena. Then I went to work. At lunch, a single text came from Iris. I don't know if you did the right thing, but I understand why. I didn't reply. The terms stood. The line held. No more negotiating.